Go ahead.
Okay, I'll call the meeting in order and welcome everybody to June 1st, 2026 council meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councillor Walker,
Here.
Councillor Gabrielle, Councillor Blank,
Here.
Councillor Dowd,
Here.
Councillor Waterman,
Here.
Councillor Fisher,
Here.
Councillor Leftridge,
Here.
Councillor Nenely,
Here.
Mayor Hunter.
Here, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Waterman, will you lead us, please?
With the will, Your Honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have our agenda before us. I look to council for a motion. Mr. Nunley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Ms. Blank, second. Thank you. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed, no. Motion carries. We have three consent agenda items. Three consent agenda items. First item is council minutes for May 11th, 2026. Second item is Award City Airport Taxiway Pavement Rehabilitation Project. This item considers awarding this project to LHC Incorporated in the amount of $348,000. The third item on the consent agenda is confirmation of firefighters Ryan Caterino and Eric Woodruff. This considers confirming the two firefighters, paramedics after successful completion of their 1-year prohibitionary period. Look to council for a motion. Oh, wait, I'll open up for public comment first. Anyone wishing to address the council on these items, please step to the mic, state your name, or raise your hand if you're online. Seeing none, now I'll close public comment and Mr. Nunley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Mr. Walker, seconded. Thank you. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Chief. Right.
Your Honor, council members, city manager, good evening. You guys can stand right over here. Right there. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to present two of our firefighters that have finished their probationary period. First, I would like to introduce firefighter Eric Woodruff, immediately to my left. Eric was born and raised in Parker, Colorado, just south of the Denver area, and later attended Colorado State University, where he earned a degree in health and human sciences in 2014. After graduation, he completed his EMT training and began his career in emergency response. From 2015 to 2023, Eric served on ambulances in Fort Collins and Greeley, Colorado, building a strong foundation in patient care and public service. In 2023, Eric moved to Kalispell and continued working in healthcare before joining our fire department in 2025. Since arriving, he has demonstrated a strong commitment to the profession and to our community. He hopes to spend the remainder of his career with Kalispell Fire and is currently pursuing instructor certifications so he can contribute to the training and development of others within the department. Outside work, Eric enjoys reading, staying active outdoors, spending time in the mountains, and traveling to new places. He is honored to serve the residents of Kalispell and the surrounding communities, and we are fortunate to have him on our team. And now I'd like to turn my attention to the other gentleman we have with us, Ryan Caterino. And just to point out, Ryan's mom and dad, Susan and Larry, are with us, and his girlfriend Maddie, and a couple of his other fire buddies from other departments. Ryan is originally from Southern Cal, where he began his public service career working in emergency medicine on ambulance crews. It was there that he discovered what would become his true calling, serving others during their times of greatest need. Since then, Ryan has built an impressive record of service. He has deployed with FEMA on numerous disaster responses, including hurricanes, pandemic-related incidents, and other emergencies across the country. Throughout his career, he has demonstrated a passion for training and professional development, always striving to improve his skills and become the very best provider and firefighter that he can be. Ryan came to Kalispell from North Idaho, where he successfully completed both a fire academy and an advanced EMT course, while simultaneously working full-time in the ER and serving with the Worley Fire District. That level of commitment speaks volumes about his work ethic and his determination. We were fortunate that Ryan chose Kalispell as the place to put down roots. Nearly 2 years ago, he purchased his first home here, which I like to think is a pretty good indicator that he's here to stay. When he's away from work, Ryan enjoys marksmanship competition, camping with his girlfriend Maddie and their dogs, and taking advantage of the many hot springs in our area that our region has to offer. Ryan's commitment to the fire service extends well beyond his assigned duties. Along with several other firefighters around the valley, he helped establish a nonprofit organization dedicated to job-related tactics training, strengthening relationships among our neighboring departments, and building camaraderie throughout our greater fire service community here in the valley. Since joining the department, Ryan has consistently demonstrated dedication, professionalism, and a genuine desire to contribute to something larger than himself. He brings a positive attitude, a growth mindset, and a willingness to go the extra mile for both his teammates and the community that he serves. So I'd like to thank both you gentlemen and congratulate you. And Your Honor, if you would help us with the pinning, we'd appreciate that.
Now, neither of you have the Kevlar that the police officers have, so please let me know.
Seems like a stressful part.
Congratulations. Welcome to the city of Kalispell. Thank you for your service to our community, and please stay safe in your service. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. And council members, I'd like to present to you recently confirmed firefighters Ryan Catarino and Eric Woodruff. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, we have one community report this evening, Flathead County Crisis Assistance Team report. James Pike, Behavioral Health Supervisor with Flathead City County Health Department.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. Like the mayor said, my name is James Pike. I serve as the Behavioral Health Supervisor at the Flathead City County Health Department. And here to talk about the Crisis Assistance Team. I'm going to go through a couple slides here this evening. If anyone wants to stop me and ask questions, great, or we can go back when I'm finished here. This program was started about 6 years ago. It was started in partnership with local law enforcement and initial funding through state grants. Roughly 3 years ago, the program moved to the Flathead City County Health Department to operate as an autonomous unit in partnership with law enforcement, but as a separate entity. During that time, there was some funding questions, and in an effort to sustain and see the program grow, the city and county contributed Montana Opioid Abatement Trust funds to this program. And so I'm here with an update about how far this program has come and how we're putting those funds to use. This slide here just demonstrates how scarce crisis services are in the state of Montana. There are currently 5 mobile crisis response teams in Montana. 4 of them operate autonomously like ours. And then when you think about facilities, I know people talk about crisis stabilization facilities a lot here, but there's really only 3 facilities in the state of Montana, and only 2 of them operate 24/7. So we are facing an uphill battle here as we build crisis services, but we hope to model how that can be done here in Flathead County. Amy, you can go to the next slide, please. This is our current team roster here. So on the left, you see the dispatch tag. That's how they show up in the 911 system. And then our providers. I do have an exciting update here on the care coordination front. We have filled both vacant positions, and they will start this month. So we're excited to introduce those folks to the community and our agency partners. But just understand that we operate a clinical service with licensed therapists as the team leads, and then care coordinators riding in support and doing ongoing support for our clientele. Go to the next one, Amy, thank you. So how does a typical day look, or what is our structure here? We try to respond in a two-person team, so one clinician, one care coordinator. We have dedicated trucks for the program. We have a safety barrier between the driver, the care coordinator, and where the client would sit for the safety of our responders. And we'll talk a little bit more about transport. We operate 7 days a week, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and most of our responses are initiated by the 911 dispatch center, attaching us to a call like they would an EMS unit or law enforcement. Responding personnel, whether that be law enforcement or EMS, can request us by radio or phone on a scene if they see that need arise. Yes, Lisa.
Is that Kalispell City and Flathead County as well, or just the city of Kalispell?
Sorry, really good question. We operate in all of Flathead County. I'm going to show you a heat map here that shows most of our volume is in Kalispell because we're based right here at the health department. So we have offices there. That's where our trucks sit. That's where we're dispatched from. So our most rapid responses for the city here, but we go throughout the county. And then the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, based in our local call centers in Missoula, but we work closely with them. I talk to them every week, and they can provide referrals as well when they cannot resolve the issue on the phone. They can refer to us for an in-person response. Occasionally, our team will self-dispatch as well, so they're looking at the board, see a known client or individual, and request 911 attach them to go care for that individual. So with a pretty thin crew here of 5 people, we're covering 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and responding to quite a volume of calls, which I'll show you here, Amy, on the next slide. Some key data points. I could go on and on about our team's data. I think this is what tells the story. But the really unique, or I think the best numbers to tell the story of this team and how hard these individuals work, I've kind of selected out for you here. So almost 1,500 total encounters last year in the calendar year 2025. 540 of those were mobile crisis, so truck-based community response. We served 450 unique individuals. And then one thing that's a huge benefit to this program is this average time on scene, almost an hour. So we're really meeting with individuals and trying to find community-based resolution. And often that takes quite a long time that doesn't have to be taken by law enforcement, EMS, et cetera. And then we spend about 65% of our time on scene without law enforcement, though they are an integral part of getting us on scene in a safe way before departing when it's appropriate. Amy, you can go to the next one here. So Lisa, this is the heat map. This is 2025 calls plotted on the county here. So you can see that we go throughout the county, the highest density, obviously in the urban centers and specifically in Kalispell. As we add a third therapist and third operating team several days a week this summer, we plan to rotate one team up north to provide some more rapid coverage to the northern part of the county. All right, Lisa, you can go, or I'm sorry, Amy, you can go to the next one here. You're not in charge of the PowerPoint. Just asking the questions. So we can transport clients, and this is a huge benefit, especially in the care coordination, like getting people to appointments or to other service providers. We do want to make it clear we only transport voluntary, so the client agrees to the transport and to the destination where they're going. and they need to be medically stable. So if they're not medically stable, they go with EMS. If it's involuntary, either a detention or involuntary mental health hold, they need to be transported by law enforcement. Though in both of those cases, we can assist in a warm handoff to the hospital. We just don't transport the person in our vehicle. And we do not have to go to a medical facility. So we can transport to the area in the community that will serve that person the best, whether that's someone else's home, a service provider, etc. Next one here. So when we talk about billing, and this will work into an overview of our funding, but it's important to note that none of our patients ever receive a bill for our services. So this is a free service for people that need it. The state allows us to bill Medicaid and a state fund that bills like Medicaid at the same rate for qualifying encounters. And when that happens, when we have a community-based response and can bill for that, the state policy essentially opens a 14-day care coordination window. So we have this crisis response that averages about an hour, and then the next day, the care coordinator is reaching back out and saying, hey, we talked about these resources or some options here in the community. Can I meet with you and go through those with you, or help you fill out referral paperwork, take you to your next appointment, get you to the pharmacy for your meds, deliver food. They do a wide range of things. And so a huge amount of the work that this program does is in that 2 weeks following the 911 call, after things have de-escalated and we're looking to problem solve for that individual. And this is a big reason EMS units, law enforcement, et cetera, will make referrals to our program even if we weren't on site, and say, hey, can you go ahead and meet with this person, do an assessment, and work with them on next steps here that these other agencies may be limited in providing. We do telehealth over the phone. Some of that is billable, most of it is not, vast majority is not. But we do engage on the phone, and that helps us reach remote parts of the county if we can't get there quickly. Any questions on service profile or how that's delivered?
So if a Flathead County, let's say, officer is in a situation.
Typically, so Lisa, can you go forward to the next one there? So this is on our website, and this is a good thing to note just because the county website is difficult to navigate at times. But I do put this language on there. So essentially what we do not want to become is a crisis phone line. We don't have the staff to support the volume. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline handles almost 300 calls a month for Flathead County alone. Some of those come to us, but over 80% do not. And so we're not trying to duplicate that, essentially. So we really encourage people to, if they're worried about someone's immediate safety, reach out to 911. That dispatch center and the responding personnel can coordinate with us. If there's something like a family is worried about kind of an ongoing issue that doesn't have like an immediate necessity, they could discuss that with 988 and say, hey, we heard we had a mobile crisis team here in the county. Does this seem appropriate for that type of referral? And they can make that referral. Once an individual is engaged with our program, they do have a callback number. So families and individuals can consistently work with our program, often for months at a time, to receive that kind of follow-up, resourcing, et cetera. As we know, it's difficult and time-consuming to get people into mental health services. And so we will follow with those individuals through the process. Yeah. And you can go one previous, Amy, sorry to dance around there. So just in terms of funding, there's a broad overview. Medicaid reimbursement is probably closer to 20%, to be honest. Where it's sitting now, the green slice is some state funding that comes in for one-time costs. So things like radios, we just bought a third truck with state grant funding to increase our fleet, some of that type of thing. But the large majority then of operational expenses come from the opioid abatement trust. And so we have begun, like the other state grants that held this thing up into last year, are making up a smaller piece of that pie. We bill certainly where we can, but we provide a lot of this service that is not Medicaid reimbursable, and ongoing support for people that might not reimburse at the rate we would want, and rely on that opioid abatement trust fund to sustain our operations and grow. And so a lot of what I look at as the state has rolled out the Medicaid policy is how can we strategically grow to meet the need of the community, which is more than we can meet right now, while keeping enough reserve to sustain the program for as long as possible while chasing new funding opportunities to augment this. And that is we have a very talented team of therapists and care coordinators that do amazing work. And this scary pie chart is where my mind lives most of the time. So Amy, if you want to go to the next one, just for the how you contact us, this page, we can leave it there so people can read that if they want. But at this time, I would take any questions about the program. Yeah, Sam?
Thank you. You guys do great work. I commend you guys a lot for that. So just a couple questions I have. One, Amy, could you go back to the heat map one? You made a comment that primarily why you're focused so much is because you're out of the health department, correct? Does that mean that when you add your third that's up north, are we going to see those heat maps expand up there too? Or
I think that's right. I mean, if you look at, I work with the crime analyst here at KPD, Claire, who's a wizard with the data stuff. So shout out to Claire in the public forum here. And we know just from that data that there's more need in the city of Kalispell. So we have some targeted times of day on certain days of the week where we know that need is higher up north, and we would target that area. But we would not see that. It's unlikely we'd see it rise to the same density of calls as Kalispell.
Sure.
Just based around what resources and services are here locally.
And then the second question I have is, now that we're moving into a legislative session here, we'll see what that makeup of legislators is, but I know that there's already discussions out there of what bills they might throw. Are there any bills that you're hearing in draft that you could use some extra assistance from people putting pressure on legislators to help you?
It's an interesting question. I think one of the primary funding sources that we're watching is crisis diversion grant funding. That is began as SAMHSA funding, federal pass-through money to the states. That is now in state budget, and we're hoping that continues. And they reopen that grant cycle. What they said is it's going to be for 2 years. It is a 3-year grant. Okay. And what we would like to do with that in Flathead County is point that directly at operational expenses for programs that are operating and serving the community. And so I know it's a much bigger uphill battle for Medicaid rates right now, but crisis diversion grant funding would help us if they reopen that grant.
When it gets to that time, feel free to reach out and let me know. I'm sure some of the other counselors might be interested.
Thank you. Kyle.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your leadership with this group. Just a couple of just sort of public education.
These individuals as providing what I think is necessary connective tissue in this community where we lack some of that connective web that these folks really work hard to fill.
And I think it's the strength of the model of sending out 2 peers, but one being a case manager, one being a nurse, to be able, that makes it very successful for a pair for law enforcement. You just sort of hit on the other issue, just again for public education, the differences between behavioral health and mental health, and then what you see as the resources, needs, or lacking in the community between those two.
Yeah, thank you. So those get used interchangeably sometimes, but think of behavioral health as the umbrella term for both mental health and substance use disorder. And those often co-occur. And so we talk about behavioral health serving both of those needs. That is certainly the case for our team, that we treat lots of people that have co-occurring mental health and substance use disorder. But neither of those is exclusionary for our program services. So yeah, behavioral health, just the umbrella term for both of those.
Thanks for the further education. Again, for the leadership, just know how important it is to have the team, but also having places to call is really important. So it's such a gift also to have somebody responding.
And yeah, and Kyle, from the terminology to the services offered to how you access them, people face just a really complex system for these services, and that's across the nation, honestly, but certainly here in Montana. You think about, you go to the ER with chest pain and shortness of breath, you're going through a multitude of service lines, but you almost don't even know you're switching service lines, right? Those referrals are to the next department, you're weaving around a campus. But in the behavioral health world, you have to connect between 7, 8 different agencies to really meet the needs of a complex client. And then you're left to do that in the middle of a crisis, right? A behavioral health crisis. And that is a really, really difficult thing to do. And no one's really walking you through that. So the more that we can provide these types of resources to educate people and get them in the door at all these different agencies, I think I certainly, when I got here, had no idea how complex it is to navigate the system when each agency that you need services from is owned by a different company. And they all want to work together, but there's paperwork and data transfer limitations, et cetera, that are so much more difficult than going to a hospital like a Logan Health, where you get multiple service lines that you're referred through almost seamlessly, especially in emergency cases. And it's just not the case in the behavioral health world, and that's where I see programs like this really benefiting the community.
Could you speak to just, for people who are facing behavioral health crisis, you have the receiving centers. We don't have very good infrastructure for that locally. And I know the state legislature passed legislation with funding a few years ago supposed to arrive on the ground. We're having troubles getting that on the ground. Can you kind of talk about where we are and what the barriers are, or what the struggle is right now to have local resources for people in crisis to go?
And specifically facility funding, right? So the gold standard would be a 24/7 facility where someone could be to kind of stabilize and be comfortable, fed, housed, et cetera, until they can connect to resources. Especially when their immediate need doesn't rise to the level of ER, right? They've kind of cleared the medical necessity of an emergency room, but they need somewhere else to go until that next appointment or med management or whatever it is. And Ryan, I think we have the community partnerships to do it. And I think if a facility opened, we have the right people in the right seats to coordinate that in an effective way for our community. We have grant funding primarily through the state to support a facility for probably a year and a half. The barrier to opening is what happens after 18 months. And when you pencil out what that facility costs, and this is something I meet about a lot and look at cost projections and pro formas for staff and facility costs. And when you pencil that out, the Medicaid reimbursement from that doesn't, I mean, it looks a lot like that, 30% of your facility cost. And that is wildly different than, say, a group home, right? Where you actually do cover the costs of a group home with your Medicaid reimbursement for a client. It was not, the cost projections were not maybe adequate for what the reality of running these facilities is. And we are meeting with the state regularly to try to express what we think is the shortfall there and have some kind of assurance to whoever operates the facility that they can sustain it and not start something up that disappears 2 years later. I think the map at the very beginning, I put in there every time I talk about this, no matter kind of the audience, because we can get really focused in Flathead County on like, why don't we have this? Wasn't so and so supposed to do this with this money, right? But the reality in the state is no one's doing it. And so I want to make the point that Flathead County isn't being left behind. In many ways, we're leading in crisis care, even though it doesn't look like it. But there isn't a great model in other places that has really shown a way forward using the funding allocations from the state the way they're laid out.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just emphasize what Mr. Nunley says, if there's any way we can help in that communication with the state, I think we'd like to do that. Ms. Blake.
That's all I was going to say is I recently had to, one, we have a lot of situations like this at the college, so I see it as a need. And then in a recent jury duty responsibility, learned a lot more about what we do and don't have as resources. And it's really risen to the top of my understanding of how important your work is. So thank you so much for doing that. And yeah, I can't speak for the whole council, but for myself, I would most certainly want to be an advocate for you in seeking funding to expand the services. And I guess my last question would be, is there a model that we could be looking at that has successfully secured resources that is similar to this area in terms of being maybe not resource rich?
Let's just say yes. Nationwide, crisis services are not, I mean, no one's getting rich off of them. And they are hard to sustain. There are places that have done it.
West Virginia or?
Colorado's done a pretty nice job. If you look at like kind of a state we could look to for both jail-based behavioral health care and community crisis services, they've done a nice job there. And there are a couple ways to approach that from a funding level. I think I'll certainly keep you all in mind as we go towards the legislative session here, and point you towards some things that we're watching on that. And yeah, we could spend some time talking about other state models for sure. But you have to find a funding source. You can't run it. It's difficult to run it as a fee-for-service healthcare model exclusively, right? Because you need a crisis system there when people don't need it, and then you definitely need it there when people do. And so at some level, you're paying for fluctuating volumes, and when states and local entities approach it as, hey, stand up this hospital and we'll see people and we'll charge them insurance and it'll all work out, it's not predictable like that, like outpatient services. So at some level, you're paying for capacity you're not always using, and that means you have to tap a funding source that isn't strictly Medicaid or insurance funding like that.
And just to follow up,
Yeah,
James,
please.
we primarily right now in Montana are working in the Crisis Now model.
Yes.
Could
So
you explain that as the model for those who want to do some research of what that looks like, and then also sort of where we're going with behavioral health centers or yeah.
Yeah, so Montana chose the Crisis Now model. This is a Samson model. It's been deployed in other states with some success. And it has 3 steps. So it's somebody to call, someone to respond, and somewhere to go. And so the who to call is a 988 suicide and crisis lifeline that is nationally funded. That funding is fairly stable right now as best we can tell. Anywhere in Montana, you dial or text 988, and you will get a local call center. If you don't get that call center because they're busy, it gets diverted to another one. So 988 is a very stable, reliable resource in Montana. That there's some great research on that came out recently, and they're handling a huge volume. That's an amazing service for us. Someone to respond is mobile crisis teams. You can see how many of those there are in the state, but we're trying. And then somewhere to go is the facilities that Ryan you were talking about. So that's the kind of tiers of the crisis system that the state is trying to build and sustain. That has met with challenges because it's mostly grants and kind of one-time grants or two-time grants, and those inevitably face funding cliffs that kill services. And we have all experienced that locally, but across the state, that has been the main complaint. So what the state has just been approved for is a certified community behavioral health center model, or a CCBHC model. Montana got one of the recent demonstration grants that was just awarded this week or last week. And that will largely operate mental health centers like an FQHC. So if you think about the Greater Valley Health model, where they're getting a kind of a encounter rate for somebody that's meant to cover a variety of services, that is what Montana is trying to do with CCBHCs. This is going to be really interesting to see how it rolls out. Currently, the map is for CCBHCs to only cover half of the state of Montana, leaving the rest in a fee-for-service model where we are currently. And so the state will have a complex problem on their hands going into the legislative session, balancing the complex rollout of a CCBHC model for about half the state's population and trying to sustain a fee-for-service model in the rest of the state, and kind of simultaneously trying to use those funding sources to build this Crisis Now model. And without local partners like the city and county here, these things are on really thin ice. And so there's a lot of local buy-in that has to happen regardless of what the state does with CCBHCs or the 300 million BizFig initiative.
Mr. Dowd.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. I thought part of the recreational cannabis initiative, some of that tax money was supposed to go toward addiction services. Is that a reality? Did that ever happen, or am I getting it wrong?
Addiction services, maybe. I can't speak to where exactly all those funds go. They do not come to this program. That is an opioid abatement trust fund. I can't speak without doing a little more research on marijuana tax dollars and those allocations.
All right, I'll ask one of my state legislators. I appreciate it. Thanks.
To Lisa's question, that's how Colorado funded this. They basically scooped up all their marijuana money and put it into behavioral health and jails and crisis support systems. And that was the backstop to the Medicaid rates, which are basically the same as ours. And they bill Medicaid the same way we do, largely. But they opened up a lot more pathways for care by backstopping it with that tax money.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time and letting me speak with you. And I know many of the things we touched on, I could rabbit hole for a long time on. If you're especially curious, please get a hold of me or visit us at the health department. I'm happy to sit down with you for a while on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just can't stress how much, how important the service is in our community. And I remember when it started getting rolling out, and it's just, it's been a true benefit to the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, so I'll open it up to general public comment for anyone wishing to address the council on items not on the agenda. I will remind folks that we do have a 3-minute limit on our public comment formally. I don't tend to enforce that. I like to give people time to have their say, but please keep in mind to keep comments concise given our agenda. Thank you.
I've about said all I can say as far as safe haven baby boxes.
Please
But
state your name again for the
Russell
record.
Sias.
Thank you.
I enjoyed this presentation by this crisis people, and I'm offering this safe haven baby box as a crisis prevention tool as well. I don't know how many young ladies have not felt in crisis when they discovered that they were 6 weeks pregnant. I was given an article this week, and the headline of this article, I hope, embarrasses everybody. It did me. The headline is "The abortion industry just admitted at least 100,000 women a year get chemical abortion pills in the mail in unregulated, uncontrolled." It's unbelievable that we are allowing that kind of stuff to go on. And I'm going to leave this with you. I've highlighted a few things in it, and your gal will pass it around, I'm sure. But this is a huge problem. And we have talked about putting one in the new fire hall. I would submit that crisis management is something that we should be dealing with and hope we never use. But it is what it is. And until we teach our young people, at least I hope it's young people, that keeping their pants on is something that's worthwhile to do until at least they decide to get married. Talk about crisis. Did you know that this last year we had 1,124,000 clinician-provided abortions, and we have absolutely no controls or no regulations on these forever chemicals that we flush down our toilet along with a baby. I'm stunned with what's going on. And I don't know what to tell you. It's just, can we really, with these kind of numbers, 100,000 women a year through illegal channels getting these pills? How many of those are here in the Flathead? We're not the whole state. Oh, and the other piece, Billings has decided to put in the safe haven baby box. I don't know if you knew that or not, but they have decided to do that. I don't know if it's functional yet or not, but they are the only ones that have done this at this point. So I'm going to leave this with with you guys. I've highlighted some of it. I won't go through it all. You know where I stand on it. So read carefully. Look at what I've highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no further public comment, move on to our action agenda. We have one item on our action agenda, Resolution 6327, Land Use Public Participation Plan Update. This resolution considers amending this plan, creating a process for public notice, access to documents, and the ability to comment on site-specific development. Mr. Nygren.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'll turn it over to PJ Sorensen for a staff report.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. As I'm sure you're aware, there's a statute. What we were doing with that, we added and expanded some of the details. That had discussion at the City Council level. We went and had a public hearing on that at the Planning Commission level, and they forwarded a positive recommendation back to the City Council on that. Essentially, what was done is we expanded the subsequent site-specific development section, added in specific types of notices. And really, as we were putting all of this together, what we were trying to do was have the most robust public engagement that we could have within the parameters of Malupa itself. And there's only a certain distance that we could go with some of that. As far as the notice that we were providing, for the most part, this really matches what we've historically done using the newspaper and mail. Probably the main change is when you're looking at zoning appeals, subdivision appeals, Malupa specifies how that notice goes out. And that's why those are listed a little bit differently than elsewhere in there. A number of these processes, including map amendments, for example, would go to the regular process that we would have with the public hearing. If you're getting into some sort of an action that doesn't involve a public hearing, and again, that's typically going to be subdivisions, conditional use permits, and variances, we included provisions in here for public participation for those types of developments. And kind of the center of that is utilizing our existing city website to post information online from early on in the process. As we're getting application materials in and making those initial determinations by staff, posting staff reports, posting final written decisions by staff, and just kind of keeping that in full process transparent with the public. Providing for online comment submission, providing for a subscription alert system where people can sign up for that email notification when something gets posted online so that they're aware that it's there, as well as appeal information required in those decisions. So be happy to answer any questions. And again, there was a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Mr. Walker.
In addition to the online website notifications that we're putting on, could we add like a layer to the GIS map with the planning data? So like you click on the plot of land and it would show you where in the planning process that plot of land is. I think Gainesville, Florida has something similar.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would take to do continual updates with that. We do have CUP information and building permit information after they've been approved and they've been on there. But I can't answer what that would take from a GIS to continually update that on a daily basis.
Okay.
I just have a few questions. If you could go back up to the table. I was just curious, the difference between a zoning text amendment, which is newspaper only, and then the zoning map amendment, which is newspaper and mail. Why the one has one and the other has both?
Right. Well, they're kind of different in nature. So a zoning text amendment really applies citywide. It could be applying to 30,000 different people, and it's the text of the ordinance itself as opposed to something that's happening in a particular property. So it's really hard in that situation to do a notice like you would with a subdivision or a CUP when you can say go around 150 feet. You can't really do that with the text amendment, and we never have. People don't do that for text amendments. Map amendment is different because that you're changing something on a map. It might be a specific person that wants to change their property, and we would send out the notice to property owners around that. Or if it was the city initiating something, we would always send that to the property owners within that area, and then within that same buffer around it. But that's why there's a difference there.
Okay. I guess what I was thinking of our land use plan map that might also result in like a change to the zoning map that would be kind of broader, kind of, you're changing a whole zone map. Because I understand the argument of like, yeah, you specific property, but if you're kind of doing a broader map, would that still?
Even broader in that situation because you're affecting a specific property. So a text amendment is just language in city code, right? That kind of applies everywhere potentially. But whether you're doing, a couple lots or a square mile, that's affecting a specific property, and that makes it something different. And that's why there's a difference there.
Yeah, because if you let's say R3, you change in the text like what's allowed under R3. If you just do newspaper because it's everywhere in R3, but then if you go to the map of R3s and you change it, somehow you're changing R3 to something else, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're changing the whole map of R3. Does that change how you think about the broadness?
No, because I think, again, with the map, and like an example would be with the core area downtown. So along the Parkline Trail, that was historically B5, which was industrial business, and kind of reflected that there was the railroad and all the industrial stuff that was off of that. That core area plan, which was kind of a precursor to putting in the trail in there, was really leading to changing the nature of that whole area. And there was a rezoning, and it went to a B3 zone instead of B5. B3 was kind of created for that area. And all those property owners got notice and a public hearing and so forth to come in on that. Again, when you're actually just changing the text of an ordinance, you typically wouldn't send that out. So for example, with this here, there's a public hearing on it, but we're not sending out 30,000 public notices to make this change with the public participation plan. And that's where the difference is between the two.
Okay. And then I know we've spoken about it a lot, but the 150-foot distance, that's a requirement of the state for the distance, right? And
in some ways, a lot of them is actually adjacent to, like, if you're just strictly doing state law, a lot of that, when you're looking at a subdivision, at least historically, and everything's kind of changed, it would be adjacent properties. In our local ordinance, we've always done 150 feet, and then try to be generous when we're going around that. But yeah, we're following, state law and what our historical practice has been within the city.
And doing something broader like a 400 feet is really a matter of cost, that you just start, the number of people you're mailing to becomes pretty significant.
That's part of the function of it, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But there's certainly other aspects of that too, with like, how broad do you take that out into who's directly associated with that, so.
And then we received public comment today from Livable Flathead about requesting kind of additional information to include on the website more on a monthly basis. I don't know if you had a chance to review that, what your thoughts are on.
Yeah,
on
I looked
request.
at that. I don't know if it directly applies to what we're looking at tonight, because tonight it's more about the processes. We've got an application coming in and how do we get that out there. I think that public comment had to do more with general information. I think a lot of the information that's would be posted on that Ben site we have with our annual report that we put together, which shows information as far as the number of building permits that are out there and valuations and what our subdivision and building activity is. So a lot of that stuff is on our website, but it's in an annual report that's posted on the website as opposed to like a dashboard like that. I think I would be cautious about some of the suggestions in there. Like one of them was posting all the approved home building plans. I don't know that everybody would want to have their plans for their house posted online. So there's some things that would probably be going, that we probably wouldn't be interested in putting in there. But, we try to have that some of the general information out there that would be more citywide, available through that report.
Yeah, I'd be very hesitant to use third-party information to put on our website, but a lot of the data that was mentioned, we actually have. It's just a matter of getting it into a location with everything else we have as part of the notices. For example, if you're to go to our building permit page today, we kind of have a building permit portal that shows where every single building permit is in the city, the building permit number, and it'll even say if it's a single-family home, a townhouse, a commercial building, and et cetera. So it's all there. It's just a matter of putting it in a spot where, it'd be the data that somebody could have. But I would want to utilize our data, and certainly through GIS, we have the ability to kind of compile those things. It's just a matter of working with our GIS department and kind of seeing the best path forward. But
I think part of the comment was some of the information that's useful that comes out in the annual report, that they would like access to it on a monthly basis, rolling monthly basis.
yeah, I mean, any of our data would be available to them at any time if they wanted to request that. And yeah, we could, whether it's a Excel spreadsheet, because that's what we use, we could share that data. It's all public record for sure.
Right.
So.
And there are some agencies that do get that on a monthly basis. The census kind of pulls that in, and there's other groups that get that routinely on a month-to-month basis. So it's available.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, we'll open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step to the mic, state your name for the record, or raise your hand if you're online. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll look to council for a motion. Mr. Waterman.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. I move resolution number 6327, a resolution of the City of Kalispell, Montana, to adopt an update to the land use public participation plan in order to clarify the details regarding notice and public comment for site-specific development by providing for notice via mail or newspaper and providing access to documents on the city website.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Fisher got that one. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Waterman.
I really do think that this is an example of where we're doing better with something that we were all concerned about public participation. I think that this was a really good suggestion of where we could be utilizing the website a little bit better to do that and being able to get the information out there and more trackable. So I really appreciate the staff taking the time to take this into consideration, but also then that the planning board helped develop. And I think that we came up with a really good product, which I actually think would hopefully be inspirational for other cities to look at as they look at their MLUPA to make sure that they're coming to the best communication standards.
Yeah, fully agree. I just want to say, once again, I applaud the staff for their forward thinking and creativity in coming up with this to ensure that our citizens know how to participate and how to assist in informed decision-making under MLUPA. And this is a great step. I look forward to seeing it in action and seeing if there's any refinement we can do along the way. And as Mr. Waterman said, I'm very hopeful this model can be used around the state and in the Valley in order to support their citizenry, being able to know and participate under MLUPA. So please, PJ, go proselytize, because this is a great model and it should be utilized everywhere.
All right, I'll just echo what Mr. Waterman, what Mr. Leftridge said as well. Thank you to everybody who pulled this together. With that, we'll have a roll call vote.
Counselor Walker.
Aye.
Counselor Gabrielle.
Aye.
Counselor Blank.
Aye.
Counselor Dowd.
Aye.
Counselor Waterman.
Aye.
Counselor Fisher.
Aye.
Counselor Leftridge.
Aye.
Counselor Nunley.
Aye.
Mayor Hunter.
Aye, motion carries. City manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, thank you for that. On the public participation plan, I think this is an example of, these documents and these plans don't have to remain stagnant either. I think as we move forward, we'll learn from this. I'm sure there'll be court cases. a lot of things will happen over the next couple of years that'll kind of dictate where this goes, technology and all these things. PJ was actually at the state legislature last week giving the committee update. They had some interest in it. This topic is still brewing even at the state level. Who knows, maybe the state will use this as an example. So certainly they're looking into this, but, you know, as we see the ability to have improvements, we'll always take that into consideration as well. Do have a work session next week. It's topics that were brought up a number of months ago, but we've been pretty busy and we'll be busy moving forward, but finally have a bit of gap to catch up on some kind of request. Talking about the creation of an affordable housing and homeless advisory committee, as well as potential development standards along the Parkland Trail, or what we would also kind of talk about as the core area or our B3 zones. So we'll be doing that next week. That's all I got.
Council reports, start with Ms. Gabriel, if you have anything.
Just a couple of things. Thank you, Your Honor. First, I appreciated the community report tonight. Learned a lot, and I used to get a SAMHSA grant at an organization I worked for, and then all the money went away. So I fully appreciate all the great work they're doing. Secondly, wanted to commend staff and council for getting through the land use plan. I thought that was a great thing to drop right on us with a brand new council after the start of the new year, to learn a little bit about each other and how we're going to work as a team. So I really appreciated staff getting everything ready for us and everybody openly participating. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Carrie said. Thank you, staff and the crisis assistance teams. I think you're doing great work, and it was great to hear all that. And yeah, any way we can support those efforts, happy to do that. So thanks again for everybody.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I would echo what everyone else has said too, but I will also add in, it is a great day tomorrow. It is our time to go and exercise our opportunity to vote for who we want in all kinds of different jobs. So I encourage you, if you have not voted already, hope to see you at the polls. That's it.
Just a shout out of congratulations to the newly appointed firefighters for our community. Really appreciate the work that they do. To the Malupa work, I really appreciate how the staff has taken, and you're right, Ms. Gabriel, there are a lot of new council members and we've asked a lot of repeated questions that perhaps have been discussed at length prior to our time. Perhaps, but I sure appreciate the patience and as well the response and the thoroughness, and I do hope you get the word out on your good work. I know I certainly will be, and as well, I have already said thanks for the crisis assistance plan presentation, but I very much appreciate the time and effort you put into it and the willingness to answer questions. Look forward to figuring out how to make it like Colorado.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing how we can make it like Colorado as well. I believe, just to answer Mr. Dowd's question regarding funding for from the recreational marijuana money, my understanding is that, though that was how the initiative was written, most of the funding went back into the general fund. Part of it has been carved out for public lands. But last legislative session, there was a section, legislation put forward to carve out some more money for the mental health side of funding, and it failed in the legislature last year. So definitely think it's a conversation that goes into that, the Colorado model. Just wanted to share one really quick announcement that the Miracle Field, which is up in the kids sports complex, it has a new is being resurfaced, and they're celebrating their new field next Monday. hopefully it's not raining, so it's not a goalie washer of a time, but just that is something that was really dear to our former mayor, Mayor Johnson. His wife, Jennifer Johnson, is an amazing leader, and all that entire family is coaches in the Miracle Field. So I do invite everybody next Monday, if you have time, to go up. They're going to be having sort of the dedication around 5 o'clock. It's a chance to be able to see families and players and be able to use how they're using what a great asset that is. Then I also really did appreciate having our community updates today, and I was hoping that maybe we'd consider a couple other community updates coming forward. One, when the council went to DC a couple weeks ago, they had a conversation with the National Endowments of Arts, and one group that might be able to utilize some of those fundings because they're in a historic space, but also working with historic artifacts, would be Glacier Art Museum. And if the council is interested, I think it would be great to just hear an update. Glacier Art Museum used to be the Hockaday Art Museum. I think it would be great for the council to learn what the updates of that changes looks like, what some of those issues of what they are looking at as a collection provider, but also as a longtime community partner that does things like arts in the park, what they're doing. So I just wanted to put that forward as if the council is interested in maybe having a community update from them. And then another community update that I would think would be really helpful, just because it come up in other conversations, is from the Mountain Climber. And Elizabeth Wood, who's the director over at the Mountain Climber, has shared with me that she'd love to be able to come in and give an update of where they are with the Mountain Climber, which is a county service, but it does work within partnership. I guess the reason I'd be interested in that is that it shows up in a lot of our land use plans, but also our transportation plans. I know it also is the same in the other two cities of the valley. And if council's interested, I think it would be great to also be able to invite Elizabeth Wood in just to give an update of where they are so that we can start to think about what their services look like. So if everybody's agreeable with that, I might work with the mayor to see if we can get those invites out.
Yep. Sounds good.
I'll just say here to everything you've already said.
I agree, and thank you very much for the presentation. Very educational for me. I didn't know a lot of that. Thank you.
Mr. Dowd.
Thanks. And, you know, I did bring up that cannabis tax funding because I know that's how Colorado funds their behavioral health and their co-responders and their solution there. And we as people, when we voted for or against that initiative, voted for or against percentages of that to go into these different places like veterans. So throwing that out there as something, food for thought for everybody that might be listening tonight.
Great. Yeah, I'll also just encourage folks to exercise their civic duty tomorrow. If you haven't already, be sure to vote. And then looking forward to next week, the work session on a couple of those items. I did request those way back in February, I believe, and I know we've been busy, so I'm excited to get those on the agenda and have that conversation. But as a matter of efficiency, I would like to request to add a couple items to the work session agenda that are related to housing. One is looking at city property, vacant city property, and seeing if there's any opportunities with that for affordable housing. There's some different options that we might be able to discuss with regards to that, but I would like to add that to the conversation as well. And then the second one would be short-term vacation rentals. I know we have a policy of 2% cap. I've been interested in looking at applying that by ward. And if we put that on the agenda for next Monday, I'd like to ask staff to provide the data for how our short-term rentals are broken out by ward. We have the numbers of, it's 1% citywide, but we don't know how that applies by ward. I'd like to look at that data if that informs us of anything and whether or not it makes sense to apply that cap by ward and maybe adjust that cap. So I'd like to explore that as well as part of the discussion next Monday.
I think certainly I'd be interested in looking at that. But I also don't want to put the cart in front of the horse on a lot of this, and I think it's going to be a good discussion next week with what we have on the agenda. So I would not be in favor right now, but certainly in the future of doing something, looking at that.
Anyone else support, oppose?
I mean, I'm certainly happy to talk about it. I don't want us to drag it out too long, depending on how much else is going on in there. But we can certainly attempt to discuss it as far as I'm concerned. If it starts dragging out, or if initial conversations are running long, we should postpone those. But I think it's worth talking about for sure.
Echo, I'm up for the conversation, but if it gets about 9, could we pass it to the next work session? Because sometimes it's hard to make good decisions and have good conversation if we've been at it for a while.
Yeah, I certainly support looking at the data. And again, I'm happy to table things and move it on if it looks like it's a broader discussion. But I'm generally in favor of the more data, the better.
Mr. Dowd?
I'm guessing it's me because I can see my big name up on the board.
Yeah, I turned off my screen, so I didn't see that.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. We have, we've talked about this like a lot over the last, 6 years or so. And we're still sitting at 1% of our 2% cap. I'm not sure how value added this is going to be to talk about once again, but I would like to see the numbers because it seems like we're leading somewhere where one more ward may be way heavier than others. So I'd like to see the stats, but I'm not too sure I want to work it into our conversation on next Monday.
Ms. Gabriel?
I would concur with Mr. Dowd on that, and with some of the others that I'm interested in the data, but I don't know that we have the time to discuss it to the detail you're looking for on that particular agenda night.
I'd love to see the numbers, but have some time to kind of absorb that a little bit and then talk about it. I get where you're coming from, but I'd like to see it, have staff have time to work on it and maybe talk to some people and just kind of get a feel for it. It's just, I know we've talked about it before, but I'd like to see some numbers first.
And yeah, I'm happy to work with staff and get the numbers. Those are pretty readily available. As far as the number of short-term rentals and working with our GIS department, we could also break them up by ward, and then I'll at least have that data available. So if there's any concerns with that, it may warrant a future discussion if council wants to head that route.
So we could have those numbers though.
Yeah.
Fairly soon,
I'll
so
put
people
them
can
in-
have
I'll-
several days to review it.
Yeah.
So we can, given the fact that I requested these work sessions back in February, and I get we've been very busy, but we only now, I would like to take the opportunity, since we're going beyond the subject of housing and stuff, to address it. I get that if we're going late, we can kick it, but I don't want to kick it prematurely because we don't know when we're going to have more time to come back to it. So if it's something where it's running smoothly and we have time, I would like to address it. We'll have the numbers well in advance for people to look at, it sounds like. So Mr. Waterman, did you have thoughts?
I just need to make sure that the agenda is such that the public knows what we're going to be discussing. That's the main thing. So I certainly can, I could add this to the agenda as far as having the data available, and then council could use that data. I can include it in the packet, and then if it needs discussion or for future discussion, that would be up to the council on that. But I just want to make sure that the public is aware of what will be discussed. So.
Yeah, I'm supportive for the public notice to have the data for data being there. And I agree with you, Mayor. I mean, it fits within the purview of the way you're talking about with housing and sort of looking at housing studies. So it's in that sort of context of what we might want to, if we are charging a committee or something like that, to consider as well. So happy to look at the data and see what, have that included, but also to make sure that staff knows what we're notifying for